Hello and thanks for joining us on this Wednesday edition of THV 11 News at noon. I'm Jurnee Taylor. Here are your noon headlines. Police confirm an overnight shooting in Cabot, in a Cabot neighborhood, what we know now in less than 2 minutes. Right now, we are days from the 4th of July holiday weekend, and a repeat of last year's travel woes seem inevitable as the number of flight cancellations start to ramp up. What you need to know before your flight. And one of the most familiar faces on TV is being replaced with another familiar figure as Wheel of Fortune announces future host Ryan Seacrest. And when is he expected to take the helm of the Wheel of Fortune in our entertainment news? Just ahead. But first, we want to head over to Scott Covert. It is the middle of the week. I like to call it hump day. But this weather has been kind of hard to get over. It's a little hot out there, Scott.
And we have a long ways to go, Jurnee. This heat wave we've been tracking actually starts today, and we're going to see several consecutive days of just some downright blistering heat. It's hot here at the noon hour. Little Rock sits right around 89 degrees. We're up to 90 already in Arkadelphia, 91 the current temperature in Camden. But as we know all too well in the natural state, these temperatures don't tell the full story. You got to consider the humidity, and that's what it actually feels like outside. Camden already sizzling at 114. 102 is what it feels like right now in Pine Bluff. 103 in Hot Springs. 97 in the capital city. As for today's forecast, looks like we're going to hit 99. It's possible. In fact, I think it's likely many folks probably do see 100 degrees, but at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter whether it's 99 or 100. With all of that humidity, our heat index values will likely meet 110, perhaps even exceed that, and that's dangerous. That's when we start to have health-related heat conditions out there, heat exhaustion, heat strokes. Of course, know the symptoms. Take care of yourself, especially if you live in one of these pink counties. That heat warning, excessive heat warning, in effect until 8 p.m. this evening, and there is more on the way. We'll likely have these heat headlines through the end of the week, but as you'll notice, there is some relief going to be showing up in your 7-day forecast. That's all coming right up here in just a few moments.
Thank you, Scott. Well, this afternoon, we're continuing to keep an eye on power outages across the state, as many remain without power today following Sunday's storms. Energy crews are making progress as thousands have had their power restored. Right now, it looks like there are less than 13,000 that are still out. And in response to those outages, North Little Rock has placed a pair of sanitation trucks in the city to help get rid of spoiled food. Now, the trucks are at the Indian Hill Elementary School parking lot and in the empty lot off of Highway 161 that is near the Family Dollar in Sonic. The city says the trucks will stay out as long as they're needed. And with thousands of Arkansans still dealing with power outages from Sunday's storm, this heat is not only uncomfortable, it's dangerous. That's why cities across our area are stepping up to help. Cooling sensors are open across the metro this afternoon. Here in Little Rock, you can find relief in the following locations: the Dunbar Community Center, the East Little Rock Community Center, the Southwest Community Center, and the Stevens Community Center. All locations are open today until 6 p.m. Now, for more information on cooling sensors across the state, just text the word COOL, that is COOL, to 501-376-1111. Well, we are still working to get more information on a shooting that happened overnight in Cabot involving a police officer. Here's what we do know so far. Hours ago, Cabot police confirmed an exchange of gunfire between Cabot authorities and an unnamed individual near a residence on Shady Lane in Cabot. We've tried to get more information, but so far, Cabot police have provided no further updates on the incident, but as soon as we know more, we will definitely provide more information on air and on THV11.com. This afternoon, we're working to learn more about the tragic death of former Arkansas Razorback and Whitehall football coach Ryan Mallett. The 35-year-old drowned in Destin, Florida on Tuesday. Here's what we also know right now. Authorities there say he was with a group on a sandbar in the Gulf of Mexico, struggling to get back to shore. Mallett reportedly went underwater, and when lifeguards pulled him out, he wasn't breathing. Life-saving measures were taken there on the beach, but he was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Reactions continue to pour in today. Here's just one we want to share with you this afternoon. Arkansas football made a memoriam post on Twitter calling Mallett a Razorback legend and saying he's responsible for some of the program's best moments. Like we said, we're just working to learn more about the accident, and we will have reaction from him and the people as well as his coach tonight at 5 and 6. Now to a developing story this afternoon. For the first time in decades, cases of malaria have been transmitted locally in the U.S. Of course, we're used to mosquitoes here, but the state health department says the risk is yet another reason to protect yourself. Sarah Habakowitz reports.
This week, the CDC sent out a health alert that mosquitoes have spread a handful of malaria cases in the U.S. 4 cases in Florida and 1 in Texas. Here in Arkansas, the health department says the risk is low, but something to keep an eye on.
Here lately, we've had a lot of storms and rain and hot weather produce mosquitoes.
Kenny Stevens leads a fleet of mosquito trucks most summer nights for the city of North Little Rock.
But we're definitely helped reduce the amount that's out there in the neighborhoods.
But the trucks are fighting an uphill battle. Mosquito expert and professor Emily McDermott at the University of Arkansas says climate change means we're seeing more of the insect.
In general, in a lot of places, we are seeing kind of increase in numbers of mosquitoes. Some of this has to do with longer warm seasons.
And while bites may be itchy, typically mosquito-borne diseases like malaria don't spread locally in the U.S. But for the first time in decades, the Arkansas Department of Health explains the country's seen a handful of those cases.
Somebody comes in with imported malaria, gets bitten by a local mosquito, and who picks up the infection and then bites somebody else.
Some first symptoms of malaria include a headache and a fever. And while travelers and doctors should keep an eye out, ADH says Arkansans staying local are at a low risk.
Overall, considering the number of cases that we see worldwide, I don't see that as a big problem.
And bug spray, whether from a can, wipe, or truck, can add another layer of protection.
We usually recommend DEET as the first line of defense. We do see that oil of lemon eucalyptus is fairly effective.
On top of mosquito protection, Dr. Kothari says bug spray and long clothing could help protect you from any tick-borne diseases as well.
All right, thank you, Sarah. In national news, over 1,000 people in Scottsdale, Arizona were evacuated last night after a large brush fire spread across the north side of the city. The diamond fire broke out around 5:15 p.m. and quickly grew to 2,500 acres. Authorities do not know the cause of the fire, and no injuries have been reported. Well, there's no end in sight for the travel chaos affecting tens of thousands of Americans. Big storms in the east and Midwest forced the cancellation of about 6,300 flights from Saturday through Tuesday. And there have been more today, just ahead of the busy holiday travel weekend.
Long lines and miserable travelers.
I was on hold for like at least 4 hours to get somebody, so that's ridiculous.
Another day of major flight disruptions, now keeping millions from their summer vacations or getting home from them. As storms slammed the Northeast, prompting over 33,000 delays and nearly 6,300 cancellations since Saturday.
12 hours later, here we are.
The Coutreau family's flight from New York to L.A. canceled. Their summer vacation delayed until at least Saturday.
I was very disappointed, and I was like, but I really wanted to go.
The problem started over the weekend. Severe weather hitting major hubs from Colorado east back to back. Snarling flights made worse by emergency repairs at an FAA facility outside Washington Sunday night. And that comes as the agency deals with short staffing. United says more than 150,000 of its customers were impacted. And in a note to employees, the airline's CEO Scott Kirby writing bluntly, the FAA frankly failed us this weekend, and understaffing by the government led to massive delays, cancellations, diversions. The FAA tweeting yesterday, our air traffic controllers and weather pros are routing flights around the storms. For some, flights may be delayed so that you don't arrive when the thunderstorm hits. Now just days from a surge of 4th of July holiday travelers, the airlines have little time to catch up, even if the forecast improves.
The TSA expects Friday to be a potentially record-breaking day at airport checkpoints. And while this week has been bruising for flyers. So far this summer is actually a little bit better than it was last year. The number of cancellations down significantly, even as the number of flights is up compared to last summer. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Phoenix.
A deputy is accused of inaction in the 2018 Parkland school shooting. Prosecutors say Scott Peterson, a 60-year-old former sheriff's deputy, ignored his training in common sense. He was the only armed resource officer at the school at the time.
We need to send a message to that law enforcement can't just stay behind a concrete pillar for 48 minutes while people are getting shot and being murdered. You need to do something, and this would send a message.
Peterson has pleaded not guilty to 11 counts, including 7 felony counts of child neglect and 3 counts of negligence and inaction. Well, preventing serious infections in hospitals. In just 7 minutes, we share the new health recommendations intended to protect you and your family. And Scott, can we even escape this heat?
Likely not. In fact, it's actually going to get hotter, not just later today, but even hotter tomorrow afternoon. This heat wave is here with us for the next several days. However, some hope on the horizon. I do have some relief in your 7-day forecast. That's coming up when we return.